Hi, everybody. This is Ray Hanania doing a special interview for Radio Bellady here at WNZK AM 690 Radio in the greater Detroit and in Michigan. I'm here every second Friday of the month, and beginning in August, we'll be doing a weekly radio show sponsored by Arab News every week here at WNZK AM 690, looking at the upcoming election and analyzing the election results. Right now, I'm really honored to introduce somebody to you that I've heard about, but this is the first time I've actually had a chance to talk to. His name is Dr. Massad Boulos. Dr. Boulos, thank you so much for joining the program. I hope I got your last name pronounced properly.
Yeah, Boulos, actually.
Boulos,
Yes.
Dr. Massad Boulos.
Yes,
Everybody mispronounces my name Hanania, so I know that names in
absolutely.
English of Arabs are so important. Now, Dr. Boulos is the father of Michael Boulos, who happens to be married to Trump's daughter, Tiffany. That's a phenomenal relationship. So that gives you one degree of separation, I think, from the president, the
Yeah,
former
absolutely.
president.
Absolutely. Well, yeah.
Do you get to see him and mingle with him at family events?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. First of all, thank you very much, Ray. It's a big pleasure and honor to be with you this
Thank you.
afternoon. I was looking forward to that. So I heard a lot about your show and spoke to
Thank you.
some of our mutual friends, and they introduced us. So it's really a big pleasure. Yeah, the family relationship, absolutely. It's a big honor for us to be relatives, to be associated with him, to be related to him. And yeah, definitely we meet from time to time, and we discuss and we chat and talk about all sorts of different topics. Absolutely. Yeah.
And the reason I bring that up is because, even before he became president, I had heard and I knew that he was close to the Arab American community and the Palestinian community. He had a number of friends, so I'm not surprised that that he has someone who's Arab in a marriage relationship with one of his daughters. And it was something that always opened the door, I think, to Arab Americans in terms of looking at him as a possible candidate who would sympathize and understand many of the issues we've had.
Yes, you're absolutely right. In fact, when I first met him about 6 years ago, that was the first thing he mentioned, that about his friendships with Lebanese Americans, with Arab Americans, and so on, how smart they are, how well they're doing in the United States, and how integrated they are within the community here at large. But yes, absolutely, that's true. He does have a lot of friends, and he's had them for years, way before he became president. And one of them was Tom Barak, who was also, quite in the forefront of the 2016 era and transition and so on. I'm sure everybody would remember that name. So that's just one example, but absolutely, he's been close and he's had very good friendships within our community. Goes way back before the presidency, and it continues.
Yeah, and that familiarity, when you know somebody at that level, at a family level, it does give you insight into a culture. That you get to see what that culture is all about. Now, for some reason, obviously, when he was president, there was a lot of criticism of him. I think it was mainly driven by the media spinning things. I think one of the issues that was discussed, and by the way, one reason why we're talking with Dr. Boulos is that he was one of the speakers and one of the organizers of a meeting that activists who support the former President Donald Trump held in Troy, Michigan on Tuesday night, where there were a group of Arab American leaders who were invited there to listen to Trump's message through these local leaders like Dr. Boulos. But he came under a lot of criticism for a lot of issues like this so-called Muslim ban. And it was very hard to explain to people that he singled out 6 predominantly Muslim countries but there are 50 Muslim countries that were never banned, that had no ban at all, and that the so-called ban was really about ensuring security and vetting when people came into the country. And in fact, I think during that period when he was president, during this so-called ban, many Muslims actually entered the United States as immigrants.
Oh, absolutely. I think this has been taken way out of proportion, and it has been labeled as such by the left, by the media mainly. I mean, he never. This was never be so. I mean, never supposed to have been referred to as a Muslim ban or called Muslim ban. I mean, they started using this expression and just mobilized on it. It's absolutely not the case. It's a high level of vetting, like any government ought to do, and most governments all over the world actually do, including third world countries, developing countries. I'm involved in international business and trade all over the world. I'm in the African continent, in the Middle Eastern, I mean, in the Middle East and the European continent, and so on. We see these things as just normal process. Why should the United States be any different? It's just a high level of vetting, and it was specifically from some certain problematic, let's say, areas where documentation was problematic mainly. So you need to do, there's an extra step, extra level of vetting that needs to be done just for the purpose of proper documentation and background checks and so on and so forth, which is an absolute routine. There was nothing specific about any religion or anything like that. It was just taken out of proportion by the extreme left.
Yeah, and tell us about, first of all, tell us about the meeting that took place Tuesday night. One, why are they reaching out? I think I know why, but maybe you can explain why are Arab American supporters of President Trump reaching out to the community to get them to support the president? Do they feel that it's just the president has been misunderstood, that his policies have been presented in one perspective only? I mean, what was the purpose of the meeting on Tuesday night?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, so-called meeting. It was actually a dinner. It was a get-together amongst friends, mainly. This was not, just to be clear, because I've been asked about this several times today. This was not an official campaign event. This
Right.
was not a campaign event. This was a private dinner. Quite big, with some key members of the Arab American community, not only from Michigan, predominantly from Michigan, but some people came from all over. There were people from Arizona, from Pennsylvania, from DC, from New York, and so on and so forth. But predominantly from Michigan. And it was a big honor, actually, to have met many of them, some of whom I knew, and I had the pleasure to meet in the past. And so many others I had the honor to meet yesterday. It was really a diverse group within the Arab American community. There were people from Syria, from Yemen, from Egypt, Lebanon, of course, Jordan, Palestine, and Iraq. So it was quite a diverse group. They were predominantly professionals, many successful lawyers, successful doctors, many successful businessmen, and so on and so forth. It was just to reconnect with them. We had been connecting in the past. We wanted to reconnect. We wanted to touch base. And absolutely, this is the 2024 election season. So definitely the hot topic is the upcoming elections. And we needed to talk, we needed to strategize as to how to mobilize our community, which, as you mentioned earlier, we're predominantly conservatives. By nature, we're quite conservative. I mean, this is just a simple nature of our background, our culture, even religion as well. Whether we are Christians or Muslims, we are all conservatives from that background. So traditionally, just taking those values alone push us towards the Republican Party. Like I mentioned earlier, I've been a Republican for more than probably 35 years. Since I became 18 years old in Houston, Texas, as a student, I registered as a Republican and have been a conservative Republican ever since. And I shared those values with the people and friends present at the meeting. I shared my experience as an immigrant to the United States. We're a family of maybe now up to 5 generations that have become either naturalized U.S. citizens or at least 2, and in some cases 3 or 4 generations were born here. And we're just one of thousands or tens of thousands of families that came from the Middle East and immigrated legally to the United States. And I stress on legally because the border issue and the illegal immigration, of course, it was a huge topic as well and is a huge point, right? I mean, in this upcoming election. So we talked about that. We talked about shared and common experience and the pivotal role and consequential role that this community can and will play this year in the upcoming election. Now, specifically talking about Michigan, with a huge, I would say, swing vote, and I would say, unfortunately, some of the community in the past, or at least 4 years ago, voted for Biden. Now they're absolutely dissatisfied, and some of them have already shifted. Some are still undecided, and we're there to show the truth, to show the actual reality and actual facts as to the right choice, which is President Trump. And the value of this role this time is unparalleled in U.S. history. I'm referring to the value and contribution that the Arab American community will have on this upcoming election. Not only in Michigan, predominantly in Michigan, but also in Pennsylvania, in Arizona, and in Georgia. So we will have a series of these, I don't want to call them events, let's say, gatherings, getting together with friends, dinners, in a number of these states, including Michigan. Again and again, we will be coming back very soon.
I can understand you hesitant to kind of get into the obvious politics, but politics is the momentum here, and I'm sure is the reason why people are interested. I would come to a meeting just to meet you, obviously, because I think the first time President Trump ran, I voted for him. The second time when Biden ran, I voted for Biden thinking that maybe he could do more. Because I think President Trump's problem in his first administration was his, I thought, poor media. I don't think and I think it had a lot to do with the bias in the mainstream media against him. He could not get his message across. And I think that impacted a lot of Arabs in the Arab American community. And when Biden got elected, he reached out and he said he was going to do this partnership with Arab Americans. But ever since then, it's been like, yeah, I'm your partner, but he smiles at us, he looks at us, but he doesn't talk to us, he doesn't listen to us, and everything he does seems to hurt us more. Trump, it was just the opposite. He tried to do a lot of things for us, but because of the politics back then, I think it was, and the media, I think it was very distorted. How do you view the ability of Trump to come back and get Arab American support like he had the very first time? What does he have to do, and what should Arab Americans recognize about him that maybe they've misunderstood because of all this political back and forth, which I think has been distorted by the media?
Yes, I like the word misunderstood, but and I would say he's absolutely a man. He was a president that was absolutely misunderstood by many. Not to talk of the distortion of the biased media, but even by regular people, he was absolutely misunderstood. Look, as we all know, he came into this as a businessman. He was not a politician, and he never has been, and probably never will be a politician in that sense. Although I think now he's doing great, even as a politician, and people, I mean, love him for that. So he came as a businessman. He's a straight shooter, as we all know. He doesn't really sugarcoat anything, and that's who he is. So some people didn't like those mean tweets, but they've now woken up. I think there's a huge wake up call. People have been so disappointed by the traditional mainstream politician that Biden has been for probably the last 55 years, I think, or over 50 years, that's for sure. So he's the absolute mainstream politician versus the successful businessman who is extremely smart, who is extremely sharp, who is extremely result oriented. He's a man of his word. He delivered on every single promise, and we all know, had it not been for COVID 4 years ago, he would have easily been re-elected in a landslide. So absolutely, he's someone who was greatly misunderstood. But I think people have now seen the reality. They have tested the alternative, and even those who are undecided, we strongly believe. I mean, in the coming 3-4 months, they will turn to the right, in the right direction, which is the right, and they have seen what's going on. I mean, if you just look at these trials, ever since the New York trial started, but even prior to the New York trial, the indictments and so on, his numbers have gone up. They've skyrocketed. In fact, just in this month alone, or I mean, since April, you have seen his fundraising figures. They have skyrocketed, unprecedented numbers. I mean, in the polls, he's doing so well. He has now gone from a defensive position to an offensive position. He's now competing in states like New Hampshire. Just look at the poll that came 2 days ago. It's a dead heat situation in New Hampshire, in New Jersey, in Minnesota. So it's not just the traditional 5 or 6 or 7 swing states. He's now on the offensive, competing in some other states. Look at the numbers in Nevada. Who would have imagined he will be doing so well in Nevada? So people are more and more understanding his message, but more so, they have seen the truth. They have seen the reality. They have seen the facts of what's going on the other side, whether it's the disaster at the border, whether it's the inflation and the economy, whether it's democracy itself. I think it's what's going on is a big, big threat to democracy, and people, I mean, can feel with that and associate with that.
We're talking with Dr. Massad Boulos, who is the one of the organizers of the May 21st meeting of Trump supporters in the Arab American community with leaders of the Arab American community that took place in Troy, Michigan. Michael Boulos is talking to us about the relationship and what the issues that face former President Trump, and why former President Trump is the better choice in the upcoming election. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue the discussion with Dr. Massad Boulos.
In a perfect world, everyone would be a perfect driver.
Hands at 9 and 3, everyone. 9, and breathe.
Everyone would follow all the rules.
Please, go ahead and merge. I'll make room.
Thank you, fellow driver.
And nothing unexpected would ever happen. Even the squirrels would know the right time to safely cross the road. In this perfect world, you wouldn't have to wear a seatbelt. But in case you hadn't noticed, we don't live in a perfect world. About 1,000 people in Michigan die each year in vehicle crashes, and thousands more are injured. Wearing your seatbelt reduces your risk of death in a crash by 45% in a car and by 60% in a pickup truck. So until we find a perfect world to drive in, make our imperfect world safer by buckling up. A message from the Michigan Office of Highway Safety Planning.
With more than 30,000 successful in vitro fertilizations, IVF Michigan is now ranked as one of America's best fertility clinics according to Newsweek magazine. IVF Michigan fertility centers are the recognized leaders in high-quality fertility care. With locations in Bloomfield Hills and 9 other cities in Michigan and Ohio, IVF has experts in all aspects of the field. A founding member, American board-certified Dr. Nicholas Shama, is one of the leading reproductive endocrinologists in Michigan and Ohio. He has performed over 20,000 successful IVF cases, and it's helped thousands of couples fulfill their dreams of parenthood. When it's time to get personalized care from Dr. Nicholas Shama at one of America's best fertility clinics, call IVF Michigan Fertility Centers in Michigan and Ohio toll-free at 855-952-9600. 855-952-9600. Get ready for an amazing experience at Ishtar Restaurant on 15 Mile Road in Sterling Heights. Enjoy excellent hospitality from owners Ali Al-Baghdadi and Fatty Bonham, serving the best in Mediterranean food. Try Chef Ali Al-Baghdadi's famous shawarma, the best Iraqi grills and food, and the best Arabic and international dishes. Dine in our authentic atmosphere or take out. Call 586-698-2585 or check us out on Facebook. Ishtar Restaurant practices all CDC guidelines and is open every day 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Have an amazing experience today at Ishtar Restaurant, 3625 15 Mile Road, Sterling Heights.
في المدينة الفاضلة يتبع جميع السائقين القواعد ويلتزمون بإشارات المرور. لن يحدث ما هو غير متوقع في هذا العالم المثالي. لن تضطر إلى ارتداء حزام الأمان، لكن الحقيقة غير ذلك. في ميشيغان يموت كل عام أكثر من 1000 شخص بسبب حوادث السيارات ويجرح آلاف آخرون. لذلك فإن ربط حزام الأمان يقلل خطر الوفاة أو الإصابة الخطيرة جراء الاصطدام بنسبة 45%. إذا كنت تقود شاحنة صغيرة اربط حزام الأمان، فهو يقلل الخطر على حياتك بنسبة 60%، لأن احتمال انقلاب الشاحنة الصغيرة يزيد بمقدار الضعف عند وقوع الحادث. وهل تعلم أن 3 من كل 4 أشخاص توفوا جراء انقذافهم خارج سياراتهم عند وقوع حادث الاصطدام؟ لذلك وإلى أن يصبح العالم مثاليا، اجعل عالمنا هذا أكثر أمانا. اربط الحزام. رسالة من مكتب ميشيغان لتخطيط السلامة على الطرق السريعة.
Tell us how he could change that factor of being misunderstood. What can he do different? What can he say to the Arab community? Because I believe that. I believe he was misunderstood. I think that his words were twisted. He was up against a media that would turn everything he said into a negative. We have seen now the Arab community rejecting Biden, who they presumably supported 3 years ago. But what can President Trump do, or what does he need to do to convince Arabs that, one, he needs another chance, and two, that many of the things that our community was told about them are misunderstandings? What do you think he needs to do? What can he do, and what should he be saying?
I think he's saying the right things because the Arab American community, shares the same values as he does and value the same things that he does. The number one priority today or probably not priority, but the number one issue is the issue of war and peace. So he's a man of peace. We all know that. He's the only president that did not start any war. He's the only president that has ended wars and withdrew troops in a proper manner, actually, not like what we have seen 2 years ago. and in Afghanistan. But he's a man of peace. He was able to achieve 4 peace accords, which is absolutely unprecedented. And he was also on his way to achieving more of those peace accords. So, and had he been in office, I think not just Arab Americans are convinced, but most Americans and most world leaders now are convinced that had President Trump been in the White House, all of these wars would not have taken place, whether it's the Ukraine war or the war in the Middle East. These wars would not have taken place to begin with. So his doctrine, peace through strength, has worked perfectly well and will continue to work. Is he to be reelected? This will continue to work. I think all of these conflicts will come to an end. And this is what our community wants to hear. The message of peace, which is what he's all about. But besides, in addition to peace, it's about economic prosperity. That's who he is. That's what he is. So he wants to see also our region prosperous. He wants to see prosperity, not only the region, but the people. He wants to see that people become prosperous again and move towards that path. And he's a person who can achieve that. He can do it. With regards to other values, family values, other issues that he stands for, lower taxes, smaller government, less bureaucracy, the economy, employment, I don't think that there is any member of the Arab American community that would disagree with those policies. And not only that, it's the actual opposite. They all fully agree and support his policies on those.
Well, so why did Arab Americans turn away from him then after the first term? I mean, were there specific things that you think that were twisted that really had an impact on fueling this misunderstanding in our community?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't agree that they have. I wouldn't generalize. There's a huge support. There's a huge base of support within the Arab American community for Trump that has not shifted. There's a solid base which has always been there. In addition to that, there's the Republican base. As I said, traditionally, many of them are Republicans. Now, of course, there are some misunderstandings. There are some predominantly issues that are caused by the mainstream media and by the vicious opposition. His message needs to be heard, probably in a much clearer way within our communities. So we will make sure that his message is heard, loud and clear. And there are different ways to do that, which the campaign is working on, and us privately with a lot of friends are working on, and the Republican Party is working on. So for that message to reach directly to the grassroots. So for those who are still hesitant or those who are still undecided, I think the message will be very clear and will help them make the right decision. So
you're saying that President Trump is the better choice over President Biden, given what we've seen over the last 7.5 years.
Oh, absolutely, and there's no doubt about that. I'm not the only one saying that, but obviously, look at the polls and look at the details of those polls within the poll. Look at the minorities. For example, just look at the Hispanic voters. The way he has, phenomenally increased his polling numbers within the Hispanic community. Look at the African American community. Unparalleled figures, from 9% to 22%. And I think there's the actual truth and reality is much more than that. The polls may not be reflecting the actual numbers when it comes to the African American community. And that's a huge historic shift. No Republican candidate or president has ever had so much support within the Hispanic community and the African American community. So look at the numbers within the group below the age of 30 or 35. He's doing much better than Biden now. And this was the group that got him supposedly elected 4 years ago. So look at the women, the increase in those polling numbers, and so on. The numbers are really very highly encouraging. When you see one poll, you see a second one, you see a third one, you may say, okay, these are just some few. But when you see 10, 20, 30 polls, all showing the same in the same direction, you cannot but believe these numbers. And we all know that those polls traditionally do not favor Republicans and definitely do not favor Trump, in the sense that the actual reality on the ground is slightly better than what those figures are showing. So we're quite confident, but of course it's a polarized nation, I would say. The voters are polarized. There are some that are just stuck on one side of the aisle or the other. But at the end of the day, it will be determined by just a very few number of swing states. He's doing extremely well in Nevada, so assuming that's not a big issue right now. If he does well in Arizona and Georgia, which the numbers are showing, he only needs one additional state to win, to become president, to get the magic number,
right?
Which will be either Pennsylvania or Michigan or some combination. So that's from electoral map point of view. If elections were to be held today, he will win. But obviously, elections are not held today or tomorrow. They will be in a few months, but things can still shift. But we hope they will shift in the right direction.
And over the past, since the beginning of the Gaza war, that started when Hamas, which is a terrorist group, attacked this Israeli settlement. And that's not to say the Israelis haven't been involved in violence against Palestinians before that. But over the past 7 months, we've seen the Arab American community rise up and make Palestine a major issue. Is Palestine a major issue, do you think, with President Trump? Resolving it and bringing peace to Israel and Palestine. Is that a priority for him, do you think?
Oh, I think so, absolutely. Just look at his 4 years at the White House. The conflict, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, was a top priority for him. He worked so hard towards achieving peace, and he was very close to it. He got 4 peace accords to be signed. And he was working very hard towards achieving more. And then the ultimate one, which will be the Israeli-Palestinian peace. He was about to achieve an accord with Saudi Arabia, as we all know. It was so close, just before the elections. Now the new administration is trying to get something. I don't know if they will get it done within this short period remaining. But yes, this is a priority. He worked so hard with his entire team. We all remember there were thousands of trips, of meetings, of discussions with all parties concerned. And this work shall continue. There's no doubt about it.
I was the only Palestinian journalist who attended the Peace to Prosperity conference in Bahrain that Trump held and that Jared Kushner held. The problem, though, when I was there, Jared Kushner wouldn't take any questions from me. And I had to stand up and say, are you kidding me? You said, why aren't there Palestinians here? And here I am asking a question. So I had to embarrass him to stop him. And he finally took questions from me. What I think would be great is if your son Michael Boulos assumes the role of peacemaker in the Middle East, maybe in cooperation with Jared Kushner. I would like to see, and your son, why not, play a role in doing what Jared Kushner, who is also a son-in-law, bringing two son-in-laws, an Arab and a Jew, together to try to bring peace. Is that even possible? Is your son even interested in? I know he was at the meeting Tuesday night with you and with the other supporters of Trump. Is there any interest on his part to being involved in helping to bring about peace in the Middle East?
Oh, that's a good question. But before I answer that, you said something that is very interesting. You said that he has two son-in-laws, one that is Jewish and one who is an Arab American. And this is absolutely, this shows you the type of and the kind of person that Donald Trump is and the Trump family is. The way they have embraced Michael, my son, and us as a family is really amazing, is something that I can't easily describe. It's extremely, extremely warm and just a family. That's how, to sum it in one word, I would say true family. This shows you the type of family they are and the type of person he is. Now, as to Michael's interest, he's currently he's quite young. Number one, number two, he's quite focused on his business, and that's his main interest at this point in time. Now, as family members, we have seen that Tiffany in 2016 played a role, and she had a beautiful speech at the convention. So did she also in 2024 at the virtual convention. In addition to that, she had several campaign functions that she did 4 years ago with Michael. They were not married yet at the time. So as family members, definitely they will have some roles to play during the campaign. As to what happens after that, the decision will be that of the president himself, the 47th, hopefully, and the children. So, but from what I know, currently his focus is on his business.
All right, my guest. I really want to thank him for taking the time to talk to him. You're not really a politician, but I think you've been very upfront and candid with us about politics, but also representing the Arab American community. So I'm very grateful to you taking the time to talk to us. My guest, Dr. Massad Boulos, who was at one of the speakers, one of the coordinators of a meeting that took place in Troy, Michigan, this past week on May 21st and Tuesday, of pro-Trump Arab Americans meeting with leaders of the Michigan community. Dr. Boulos, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ray. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you on your show. Thank you.
Thank you.